Welcome to the ANA podcast. I'm Michael, joined here with my co-host Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, Michael, how are you today?
Very, very good. Very good. So today we have major improvements to the podcast, hopefully. I got a new mic and a new audio recording setup. So hopefully this will improve the overall quality of the podcast. We also did some improvements for the social media aspects and the website. We would like to thank for everyone's overwhelming support. Do you have by heart the last statistics that we saw for the people listening? And I believe that it was upwards of 50 people are subscribed to the RSS feed, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Actually, I just pulled it up now, and we have 80. As of recording on Tuesday, May 9, we have 80 RSS subscribers.
That's great. And how many listeners on the website?
That's very, very good. We have 78 visits. That's
78 visits.
And 90 visits to the actual episode part of the page of the website. So it's pretty solid. That is very good. Solid for 1 week. 1 week, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I am too. This over exceeded our expectations. We're very thankful for everyone that listened through to the end.
Yes.
And that gave us feedback. We appreciate the feedback. We did some modifications so that we could continue improving the podcast. One of the feedback that we received is sometimes the topics that we are talking about and discussing are too complicated for some because they don't have knowledge about these specific topics. And so we're going to start doing something before every topic where we're going to do something called Up to Speed. We'll spend maybe a few minutes bringing everyone up to speed on that certain topic. And so you basically have a fundamental, elementary understanding of what we're talking about. And then we'll give you our thoughts about it. So then on your side, you could do some research if you're interested in that topic. And maybe you'll find something that you're interested in because of that introduction. And so we hope that this will improve the overall quality. And Daniel, do you also have the statistics for the social media? I believe that the Instagram has now 40 followers, and not all of them are direct friends. So
No.
So a lot of these people are people.
It is growing.
It is growing. I'm very impressed.
It's growing. Yes.
The people following us on Instagram. Of course, some people just follow for the friends and the follows, but still 40 people. And on Twitter we have a few, maybe 10, and on Facebook about the same thing, 10, 15ish. So And so
no, it's we're growing. This is what we like to see. So
we appreciate everyone listening in. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Before starting all our topics, I'd like to do some follow-up on last episode's topics, where we spoke first of all about the folding phones, and what happened was during this week, Samsung sent an email for all the people that had pre-ordered the phone, canceling their pre-order, and basically giving them still the option to opt in back in the pre-order when the phone is available again. And now they sent them another email as of this week telling them that it's okay if you want to remove yourself from the waiting list, and we'll give you back all your money. And they're basically dissuading people from staying on. Like at all times in the email, by listening to the Teolosive podcast explanation about this email, he mentioned that they basically were kind of pushing you without pushing you directly to drop out of the pre-order, which is very strange from Samsung. Like usually phone manufacturers want to encourage you to purchase the item, but they're like pushing people. And say if you don't confirm your reservation for the phone would be before a certain date. I think the date is May 26th or 30th. I forgot which one it was. They will automatically drop you out.
Oh wow! Automatically.
Yeah. Like if you don't respond, you drop you out. So even though you already opted in again, they opted you out, then you opt in again, and then if you don't opt in again, they'll drop you out. So you have to opt in 4 times, 3 to 4 times.
Wow. So they're making it complicated for you to stay into their program for receiving a pre-order of the phone.
They're hoping that the people that don't really consult their emails very often, that they don't they don't renew their Fold Samsung Fold pre-order. I don't know. It's weird.
That's see, that just goes to show you it's another thing where the company is trying to get rid of customers. That's insane.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
That just goes to show you how premature the product is if the company is trying to get rid of customers.
That's silly behavior. You know, I think we nailed it on the head last week by your summary, your ending thoughts, where Samsung is releasing a unpolished, unfinished product just to compete with the competition. They want to have the first out, and so that's pretty well summarized. On to the next follow up. We spoke about 5G last week and how it's detrimental to basically the overall health of the phone, and we have evidence for that this week. It's not 100% verified that was the cause, but a Samsung S10 with the 5G option on it caught fire, and it is believed that it may be related either to the excess battery drain from the 5G modems, or it's due to the 5G modems themselves burning some glue or adhesive inside, which caused the overall burning of the phone. So that's one thing. And
so either way, they're saying that it's the 5G that's causing the phone to catch fire.
Yeah, 5G or the excess battery draw. So we don't know. Maybe the phone was already hot to begin with, and just using 5G caused it to overheat even more. So Samsung seems to have an overall issue with maintaining their phones at low temperatures.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time that we've seen exploding phones from Samsung.
Yeah, but I wouldn't chalk it up to I wouldn't chalk it up to a Note 7 again, because it's only one device that burned.
No, it's not going to be.
It's not a worldwide trend happening. You know, it's a sample size of one, so we cannot deduce a conclusion from only one sample. We'll have to wait and see.
But also, the device is not released to the public yet, so there's that too.
Ah, okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was available in certain regions.
The 5G is not for sale. Well, it's like I think it's coming out in like June or something soon, but it's not. Or no, some mid-year something. I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but it's not out yet.
Okay. Well,
to the public, at least. Like, there are a few reviewers.
We'll keep an ear out. Yeah, I see. We'll keep an ear out and see when they release it officially, what will happen. If it's going to burn, it's going to blow up. We'll see.
Also, going back on 5G, I heard that it can have some health detriments with it too. They're saying that the waves could cause cancer or something like that. I heard they're not sure yet. They have to do studies, but it could cause cancer.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I advise,
because they're microwaves.
Yeah, millimeter wave, not just microwaves. So not all microwaves are detrimental to the body.
Yeah.
And not electromagnetic waves are detrimental to the body. I'll put a link in the show notes describing the analysis of a nuclear scientist working in a U.S. submarine. So this guy, he basically analyzes and makes sure that the nuclear reactor within U.S. submarines are behaving properly and not killing the crew in the submarine. And he wrote a paper about waves because he knows about waves. If you know waves at the nuclear level, then I bet that you could analyze it. And it's one of the hosts of the Space Javelin podcast. I think it's Mike that wrote the article.
Wow.
So I'm gonna link it below. Maybe we'll discuss this further in some other time. But yes, compared to all the other waves that we have, Wi-Fi waves, microwaves from the microwave, home antennas, satellite dish, GPS, all the other waves, millimeter wave, which is basically 5G, the frequency is lower, is more, let's say, hazardous to the body. But then again, we could debate it and compare the risk of 5G compared to other risks we take daily. So then again, it's a matter of perspective. See? And so I'll leave the link below so everyone can read. And hopefully it's gonna give you like an insight into the topic. Also, last follow-up is we we experienced the release of the new Pixel 3a. And so the Pixel 3a was announced yesterday in Google I/O. Google announced a plethora of new services, Google search improvements, smart assistant improvements, and other products, namely home speakers, home screens like that display weather and stuff like that. And Daniel, do you have
basically a smart speaker with a screen?
Yeah, but what are your impressions about the 3a in a summarized version?
I watched a few videos on the 3a, and this is what I get from it. They say that the 3a it's obviously a budget phone because it's retailing for $400 US. And the thing is that the 3a has an amazing flagship camera. It has the same exact camera and software as the Google Pixel 3.
Yeah, for the price.
It's more expensive.
For the price. Yeah, it's pretty impressive because most cheap phones don't have good cameras. So Google is capturing a part of the market which is untapped. Yeah.
Yes, but the thing is that obviously the build quality for every budget phone, you're always going to get plastic. You're always going to get lower build quality. So that I understand how they made the phone out of plastic.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I don't like, the screen is good. That's a plus. It's a 1080p OLED panel. So
the OLED,
it's nice that you're seeing.
Yeah, the OLED is good.
Budget
but
phone.
the glass on the screen is not good. Why? It's not Corning. They're using a knockoff of Corning, a Japanese company. So it's as hard as the Corning glass, which is basically on every single phone, except for drop.
Okay.
The drop resistance and the shattering of the glass break easier. See, people confuse hardness with shatterproof. Usually, when things are harder, they shatter easier.
Yes.
Harder metals shatter easier. So having a soft metal makes something softer and less likely to shatter, but more likely to bend. So you either get something hard.
Plastic.
Yeah, plastic. There you go. Perfect example.
Plastic is extremely soft, but it bends a ton.
Exactly. So this glass on top of the display is maybe less prone to, or as prone as scratches as any other phone, but not as much shatterproof as other brands. And yeah.
Well, look, I mean, you're gonna want to get a case, whatever. The fact that, I mean, people don't really drop their phones too much, or at least I don't. But the only thing that I have that I don't like about this phone is the fact that it has a 670, I think it is, or 675 Snapdragon 675, something like that.
Yes.
Like, the processor is slower. Now, if you take a look at the Poco phone from 2018. Its camera wasn't the best. It was a decent camera, but it wasn't the best. It had a pretty good screen. It was 1080p or LCD, but it was still 1080p. I mean, it's pretty decent. They say that obviously the screen quality wasn't amazing, but it was good. Like, it was usable, obviously. And the thing is that it had a Snapdragon 845, which was the newest Snapdragon chip at that time. Now, you're getting the latest specs in a cheaper format. This you're getting you're getting a better camera, but you're getting lower specs. So that means, and especially with Google software, the Pixel 3 with the Snapdragon 855 or 845, 845.
Live correction. The A3 has a 670. I just verified. So yeah, that's a pretty old. Good. That's like maybe 3-4 years old.
Yeah, like it's as if you're buying like a 3-year-old flagship phone. So honestly, because of that, like, the processor is way more important than the camera, at least in my opinion, because that the camera, okay, wow, you could take a nice picture. The processor is the longevity of the phone. The reason why people get new computers, the reason why people get new phones, the reason why people get new technology in general is because it slows down and the software gets heavier, and their piece of tech can't keep up with it, and it starts the speeds start to drop. If you're already buying a phone that has a processor that's that old and slow from straight out of the box, imagine in 1 to 2 years, it won't be usable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Wow, you can take a good picture. Congrats. I mean, you won't be able, like, I don't know.
You know, we have
that's
personal.
the way I see it.
We have personal experience about the camera and in the Pixel. Although it might take good pictures, I know Google has tremendous experience and work inside the software side of cameras. I believe that the optimization between hardware and software is more important. I listened to the MKBHD YouTube channel Q&A for this month, and he was talking about how the Pixel was a very good product, yet it was disappointing in a matter where sometimes you take pictures and the pictures would simply not save to your camera roll. And so there's a delineation between taking amazing pictures and then saving them to the storage of the phone. And so there's probably a mistake in the coding somewhere in their phone, in Android, where the handshaking between the camera side and the storage side isn't done properly. And so that's a letdown because we all know that usually we take like a lot of pictures. If like, let's say we're taking a group selfie, we take 5-6 selfies and hope that one of them turns out right, because we're not professional camera experts. Everyone is twitching, moving, squirming, and like. And
plus, you're taking a selfie with a large group of people. I mean, someone's gonna be moving. Exactly. You're gonna be moving, shaking a little bit of your hand.
Yeah, someone's gonna have their eyes closed. Anything, but you know, as long as the handshaking between the software side and hardware side is not resolved in the Pixel line, because that's been a problem from the Pixel 2, the Pixel 3, which is an expensive phone. It's $1,000 phone almost, and now in the 3A,
when it was new, not anymore.
Yeah, of course, yes. Now they've gone down.
The price dropped. Yeah.
So if for a phone that's main feature is taking pictures, it's not doing.
It can't even save them.
It's not doing pretty well, because I prefer to have lower quality camera, but being assured that every picture I take is going to be saved, than the opposite. And we know from experience. We went to Best Buy. You want to tell that story?
Yeah. So one day we went to Best Buy, and they have some display phones, and there was a Pixel 3. So we're like, you know what? There's this big hype around this camera. Let's go take a picture, see how it looks. So we grabbed the phone like from the display units, and we try opening the camera, and the phone crashes, the app crashes, and we couldn't open the camera. Every time we would try opening, it would crash and go back to the home screen.
Yeah.
So on a brand new Pixel 3 that's on display at Best Buy, which is like supposed to work perfectly, because I mean that's what people, they're gonna go see that to buy the phone, and then that didn't even work.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty impressive.
Totally.
Their own camera app is crashing on a display unit that's barely used.
Yeah, no, that's humorous, seriously. And it was still new when it came out. But you know.
Yeah, it was still new at the time.
The sad thing is, Google is supposed to be the leader in software updates.
Because they're the ones who make Android.
Yeah. So if Android, Android itself is not able to fix the problem between the camera and the storing the image that the camera takes to the phone memory, I don't know, man. Yeah. There should be like this is like a basic feature. Like flip phones had that nailed down. Like Google, come on, it's like 2019, 2020 technology right here. Like, come on.
You can't even get saving a photo.
Yeah.
Like, you can't save a photo. That's insane.
Yeah. And
it's disappointing.
This is not our biased. This is not a biased opinion. MKBHD is a devout Pixel user. He uses that phone daily. So we're not saying this because we don't like Pixel. I believe that Pixel is good at doing few things. It has its own place, but saying that the camera is 100% reliable and will never fail you. I don't agree.
No, me neither. And the fact also that the camera, like you had said, is the main selling point of the phone. It's disappointing.
Yeah, I'll say.
Not to mention the big notch on the Pixel 3 XL, but that's not on the Pixel 3A, so you get away with it.
Yeah. So
you don't have to look at that little face.
Yeah. All right, so that's follow up for us today. Maybe if you guys are interested in financials of companies, the financials of all the major tech companies came out last week and the week before. Samsung is down, unfortunately, even though they released in this quarter new devices. Most companies are down actually. The only smartphone company that came up in the smartphone market that basically gained they gained smartphone shares in the market is the company Huawei. They did pretty good due to expansion in different markets. So now they're available in the UK and Canada for maybe the first time in many regions. So they're growing their market. That's pretty good. I'd like to see how far they'll sustain this and what kind of devices they sold. Market share doesn't say everything, but how much profit on that market share you're making is the most important one. So we'll be keeping an eye out in the next few years on how they're doing in their financials. Apple has released a very great quarter. iPhone sales are down, but overall revenues are up more than expected.
But they say that the entire phone market, that the sales are going down because people are hanging on to their phones for longer.
Yes, exactly. So phones are becoming less and less a commodity device, like something you throw away every 2 years or a year and a half, and more something that you keep on. So the technology has caught up to the point where you could use this for a sustainable amount of time without having to replace it. So that's a good sign actually. Even though they're not making as much money as they used to, I'm happy because when companies are putting more quality in their phones and relying on the quality of the phone lasting longer, it's good because you're paying a pretty penny on those phones.
Yeah, it's also the fact that you're paying here in Canada $1,500 for a XS Max.
Yeah, that's before sales tax.
I don't think you're gonna buy the new phone after a year.
That's before the sales tax too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's before sales tax for a base XS Max. If you want higher storage, it goes. I think it maxes out at like $2,000 or something, if not more.
At least they have the 10R for the more price conscientious people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And so last week we started by we started with your topic, I believe, at first. So what we'll do this week is maybe we'll start with my topic, and every week we'll be rotating, so that way we get a fair share of each other's topics. So you wanna go? Maybe the first one, I guess.
So, 2019 iPhone design.
Yay or nay? So for people that like to consult Twitter and other social media and like read tech news or see the headlines, you may have seen like about this time of the year, every year, people start coming up with mock-ups or rumors of what the new iPhone will look like.
Yeah.
And so maybe since a month past today, we've had this ongoing rumor where there was basically 2-3 prototypes going on. Daniel, we discussed this before, but
we have, yeah.
We're divided with our thoughts on this new design. Usually, those mock-ups are semi-accurate, where they will get the overall look of the device. But it won't be 100% accurate. They'll always put things, bells and whistles, that Apple didn't confirm that they'll release on their next phones.
Yes,
the reason,
to make it look a bit nicer.
Yeah, so like last year they put the Touch ID sensor in the back, which didn't make sense, and it was really ugly. People were really angry about it. Some people were really happy. So it was divided. And the year before that, they put the smart connectors on the back of the iPhone. They were rumoring an iPhone Pro, which I highly doubted. So imagine the
iPhone Pro.
Yeah. So
that would be funny.
But the new design, if you maybe just write iPhone 11 design, you'll see that you get two designs. One with the camera being the camera being in the center top side, like the Samsung basically.
Not as much anymore.
Yeah,
that leak sort of stopped showing up, and they're showing more of the 3-camera lens design. The one on it with the left, the asymmetrical one. The one with the little cyclops in the middle. That one it's sort of that was more January, February.
Exactly, and so this rumor has fallen out of favor. Most people don't recognize that Apple will be releasing this one, and so now the second option we have is a design where if anyone has a basic understanding of what the GoPro camera looks like, where there's on the front side of the GoPro there's a kind of a square where the camera lens is. Well, imagine taking that square and like sticking it on the iPhone on the back where the camera is supposed to be. And so it's a huge...
But
Go ahead.
Did you see the new ones? Did you see the new renders?
Yes, I saw for the 11R.
Where they're saying that it's going to be colored in between.
Yeah, well, that's...
They're saying that it's going to be colored in between, so it won't look like a big black
cover that later.
On the back of the phone.
Yeah, we'll cover that later. I'm still doing follow-up. Not follow-up, up to speed. I know exactly what you mean. Let's not jump ahead. Basically, it's a huge square, and the reason for that huge square on the back of the phone is they want to put a third camera lens.
Yes.
And so the only way to include the 3 camera lenses together on the back side, including the camera flash, is by putting them in a square pattern, or so they believe. And so there's been uproar. Most people will say it's ugly and don't like the design. And there's a valid argument to it where it's kind of strange and big and obnoxious. And if anyone recalls when the iPhone 7 was rumored to be released, and all the mock-ups came out on the internet showing what they will look like eventually, people had the same reaction. Do you remember that, Daniel?
I don't. I wasn't following leaks at that time.
Oh, okay. That was in your backsliding stage when you didn't care about Apple. I'm just kidding. And so if that's about when I started really, really paying attention to what was happening with Apple. And so people were really disappointed. They're like, oh, this is ugly. Apple has lost a creative. If Steve Jobs was alive, he would never do this. Steve Jobs is rolling in his grave. No. And now if you show everything...
Yeah, they always go back to that Steve Jobs stuff.
That's a non-argument, by the way. Like, no one knows what Steve Jobs would do. I think even Steve Jobs would be against the iPhone 7 Plus with the dual camera thing, because he didn't like big phones to begin with. But that's another story for another time. And so if you take the iPhone 7 Plus with the dual camera and the iPhone 8, which is basically the same design but with a glass back, and you show them to people, and then you put a competing device from the same year, from the same production year, and show it to people from afar, and you tell them which one is the iPhone and which one is not the iPhone, people will know. It's a distinctive feature, and most people now are not bothered with that design. The people have come to accept it and recognize it as a good Apple design. But yet, when it was still announced and rumored, people rejected it, and that's the thing. Apple don't follow the mainstream of design. They kind of been on the fringe of material design and industrial design, where they tend to I don't want to say defy. I want to say kind of not abide by the conventions that other phone manufacturers. They have, if we could say, an ethic in the matters of the way they produce their design and the look of all their devices, which is contrary to all the other industry. And
yes, because they try things that are different.
Exactly.
And that you don't see on other phones.
And so... Go ahead.
No, well, this design sort of has been done already in the Huawei Mate 20, but it was done in this, like, the dead center of the phone almost.
Yes, I agree. But honestly, I've never seen one in real life. And
me neither. I've only seen it in ads.
And I don't think it's available in North America, so people are mostly not used to it. And that's why...
No.
and that's why when Apple is releasing a new design that basically is setting a trend for the future, and people are being defensive, is because humans don't like change. We like everything to stay the same. You know, it's not change is not comfortable. Change is also not repulsive, but uneasing, if we could say, where you're used to seeing a thing in a certain way, and when it changes, it surprises you. And usually the first reaction when you're surprised is rejection. It's like when you see a friend after a few years and he's not wearing glasses anymore. He looks completely different. He has gained a lot of weight, and you don't even recognize him, only if it was for his voice. And so it's about the same thing, you know. Like you have some apprehension at first, but then you come to accept it, and then you like it. And so that's basically the mourning process of the current iPhone design. And now people haven't reached the acceptance stage. You know, the 3 or 4 stages of mourning. You know, first is like denial or whatever, and so like people were like denial at first, like last month. Now people are like rejecting it or whatever. I forgot what. Here, let me look up the 3 stages of mourning. The stagings.
Sorry, but just to correct you before, Huawei's are available in Canada, but not in the US.
Oh yes, of course. But I mean that design, the specific design, that with the square.
No, the Mate 20 is in Canada.
Oh really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen ads for it on billboards in Laval, so I'm sure they're selling it if they're putting ads for it.
Okay, my bad. So I stand corrected. And so there you go. So the stages of mourning are as follows. First of all, there is denial. And so, this one's weird. Let me get another one. So at first there's shock. Actually, it's 7 stages apparently. It's 7 stages of grief. So at first there's shock. Then there's denial. And so denial, people are, oh, Apple is never going to do that. And then there's anger. People are like, oh no, whatever. Apple has lost their way and they don't know what they're doing anymore. And then there's bargaining. So people are trying to like say, oh no, you know what? It's okay. You know, Apple is gonna do like what we're seeing right now is a prototype design, and so Apple is gonna come back with something else. And then there's depression, where like basically people stop talking about it for like a month, which basically happened. And then there's testing, and the testing part is where we're at right now, where basically there's graphic designers online that run a social media platform. Whether on Twitter, on Instagram or Facebook, and they make computer designed prototypes and renders of what the next phone will look like. And now, so now they're testing like designs, and they're basically they're stretching the design to its limit, where people would accept it, and not be too repulsed and be offended by how it looks. And eventually, when September comes around, people will accept it, and no one will even remember.
Yeah, for sure.
So there you go. 7 stages of grief in design.
Well,
and so
obviously people are going to accept it. I mean, you're not going to say people, oh, I'm not buying the iPhone because of the look on the back.
No, people are going to say that, but then again, they're going to change their mind.
They're going to say that, but then after, when the phone comes out and when they see it and when they watch all the reviews and when they see all their friends with it or whatever, if their friends do buy it, then you're going to see how they're going to want it.
Yeah.
It's just...
True. Yeah, that's true.
Just, yeah.
You know...
honestly, I don't find it's that ugly.
Same thing happened with the... we got used to it. At first we were like, but we got used to it. And it's the same thing happened when Apple removed from the iPhone 7 the 3.5mm headphone jack.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing, except that there's like still a few like aristocrats in the tech media that are still like clinging to their headphone jack, and like it's like every year they have to come back with those arguments, and it doesn't have a headphone jack, and it doesn't have a headphone jack. We got it, we understood it, we heard it in 2017, whenever the iPhone 7 was released, and you know, I haven't used my headphone.
You don't have to keep repeating it.
You don't have to repeat
it. This phone doesn't have just accept the fact that new phones aren't going to have headphone jacks.
Yes.
There's no space in the phone for it.
Exactly. Look,
like, I mean, I'd rather have like better, I don't know, like speakers or whatever. I'd rather have something in the phone that takes its place. I never use my headphone jack. Never. I have a 6S and it has a headphone jack and I never use it.
Likewise, I have a 6S Plus with a headphone jack, and I have the iPad with a headphone jack, the 10.5 Pro, and I have the MacBook too. The MacBook has a headphone jack, and I never use them. The only place where I use the headphone jack is when I'm in my car, and because I have a 98 Corolla, and so there's no Bluetooth option. If I had Bluetooth or AirPlay or Apple Car, I would use it, but I don't.
Well, look, I can understand on a Mac why you would want a headphone jack, because there are people who edit music and who edit audio on their Macs, and they would want it like more or they create music using their Macs. So they would want it like more instant, like they don't want that delay of like Bluetooth or whatever. Like if they're playing virtual keys or whatever, you don't want that delay of Bluetooth. And also there is a bit better audio like if you're using really high-end headphones or speakers, there is better quality through a headphone jack. So I can understand why on the Mac it should be there, but on a phone, just people don't edit music or whatever on their phone. They just listen. They use it for listening. So I'm sure there are people going around with like, I don't know, these crazy headphones saying, "Oh, I hear the difference between Bluetooth and a headphone jack and between wired." I mean,
totally.
I honestly don't see the need for a headphone jack.
No, it's a valid argument,
personally,
and it's a valid point. We should probably discuss this further in the future. There's a lot to talk about here, but unfortunately, it's not the topic we have prepared for today. So let's finish up with the iPhone design, the iPhone 2019 design. And so, as you alluded earlier, basically, there's been a design shift. People are experimenting and testing, as we said, the sixth stage of grief. And there's been a rumor where in the production chain where Apple is going to probably apply a coating on the screen, on the glass, whether it is on the front side or on the back side, on top of the camera, which will basically make it either fade, and so you can't see the whole protrusion, the hole, or you cannot, or it will basically that coating will give color to the outline of the glass. So there's going to still be the circles. If you turn your phone around, you'll look at your phone right now, and you have the circle of the lens, the retina. But if we could say, let's call it the retina for the description purpose. And imagine you had the retina of your camera in a bigger part of the lens setup, the lens apparatus. And imagine that lens apparatus had a different color than the lens itself, which will blend with the rest of the aesthetic of the phone. I'm gonna put a few pictures in the link in the doobly-doo below. Notes, and so that people could visualize it easier, and you could see what we're talking about.
Because it's hard to describe.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically blending the camera with the camera holes with the rest of the aesthetic of the device by adding into that square the color of the device itself. So if you have a space gray phone, you'll have a space gray filling. If you have a pink phone, you'll have a pink filling.
Basically, it would be like if you take the lens of the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8 or even the iPhone 10, and there are the two lens holes filling out the rest of the black that isn't consisting of lens holes, the rest of the black part with the color of the phone. That's basically what the rumors are that's going to happen.
And I don't like this idea.
But
the idea
we'll put a picture of the doobly-doo.
Yeah, the doobly-doo. Well, I like that word. It's apparently it's an idiom signifying that it's a word you give to something that you don't know what's its name, but it sounds good, so I always say it. So the doobly-doo from now on is the show notes below.
It's show notes.
And so there's another argument against what we just spoke, that they're gonna blend the rest of the phone color and fill it in the camera the camera lens thing except where the holes are. And the reason why is there's a very common phobia slash pet peeve or annoyance where people are afraid of excessive protrusions, kind of like the face of a spider. You know how they have like 75 eyes or whatever, or I don't know if you saw a really zoomed in microscope picture of a fly's head. Like you see all the eyes.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So some people find this really unsettling. It's called tripophobia. And so when you have more and more devices that share excessive amounts of lenses and protrusion and holes on the backside of the phone, it makes people uneasy. And we might scoff at this. I don't suffer from this behavior, but some people actually have apprehension towards things like that. So imagine if for you taking a good picture will take someone that you're taking a picture of to look at the camera, but that person that you're taking a picture of has agoraphobia. Not agoraphobia, tripophobia, sorry. Agoraphobia is a fear of crowds. Tripophobia. And that person will have a hard time looking at the camera lens. Yeah, and that is why I'm for them using this coating that basically is applying like a kind of like sunglass tint without reducing the quality of the picture to the lens, so that you don't see where the holes are. You know where the camera is, so you know where to look because it's still black, but you don't see all the little holes. Nokia made a phone which has like 7 or 8 lenses, and there's this other company five? Yeah. And there's this other company that made like this phone, this camera, which is basically the thickness of a regular phone. But instead of having phone components in it, it has maybe 20-ish cameras, like 20 cameras on the whole back of the device. I'll put a picture too in the show notes. It's like a really trippy thing, and they're basically leveraging low power smartphone cameras, but a lot of them to take all these pictures combined. They all these lenses in the back, take pictures all at once, and at different intervals of time, and will combine every aspect of the pictures they took into one image to make one really nice image, without having to use really expensive and moving parts like in regular cameras. In regular cameras, you have the shutter that moves, you have the lens, the focus. And so, but looking at this camera, it's really unsettling because it's black and there's like a lot of other black shiny holes in it. And if someone has like, let's say, a very excessive fear of spiders and he looks at his camera, it technically looks like a spider, or at least the eye part of a spider. So if someone is really sensitive to those things, it might be a shock to them. And so that's my close. I think I don't have any more thoughts on this for now. We'll see where it leads. Of course, the rumor mill is going to keep producing renders and the new designs for the iPhone, and probably make renders of phones and iPhones in like really strange colors, as they always do.
Yeah.
And we'll be discussing it for sure in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Well, once if anything new comes out, we'll touch on that topic for sure.
Let's go to your topic. Your first topic is whether we should use a secure browser like DuckDuckGo, or stay with Google to the and be stay in the comfort of the familiarity and the convenience that it provides.
Okay, so I have my thoughts on this topic. Now, obviously. Not everybody knows. But
let me interrupt you here. You just reminded me of Randy Vasquez interrupting Nick and Sweeney in the Televisive podcast, saying, "Look, I have opinions. Listen to me. I have thoughts. I want to be acknowledged."
Well, like for this okay, like most people know that. Well, if you don't know, Google, obviously they spy on not that they spy, they're very unsecure. They're a very unsecure company. They don't care about your privacy. They know where you are. If you have an Android phone, if you use Google Maps, They know where you are. They know what you do on your phone if you have an Android phone. They know everything you search. They basically want to know everything about you. So by using Google, it's like insecure in a way, like because they know everything you search. They know everything you do. They know where you are. Like they know everything about you. So now you can use a more secure browser like DuckDuckGo, where they have they don't keep your search history. This is DuckDuckGo. They don't keep your search history. They don't know where you are. Like they're completely private. Like I think we even said that they pass through Apple servers or something like that. Somewhere that
let's say
they
for
pass
maps.
through Apple servers.
For maps, Google. Every time you search something on maps, they keep track of every single thing you put in there, and they'll save it on their servers, and they'll use that information to monetize it, whether it is to serve ads or to give information for businesses which can use that information to, let's say, do their own marketing campaign or to open a new location. So let's say you're looking for a Wendy's and you live in a certain area and you want to find the nearest Wendy's to you. And so what Wendy's will do is they'll call Google. They'll say, hey, Google, we want to open a new location. Show us all of the data of people looking for a Wendy's, from where they're searching and where they are. And tell us if in their area there is a Wendy's 10 minutes away or less. If there is not, this is where we're going to put one. And I'm really simplifying it. I'm basically dumbing it down. But essentially, this is what they do. They basically they sell that information. And the problem is that information is not anonymous. They'll pass through their names, and you never signed in for that. You never opted in.
Exactly. And but the thing is that I have been using DuckDuckGo for like the past month, 2 months even, and like I use it on Safari, and honestly, I hate it. I always find myself like, because like, when you use Safari, how you have the option of like Google to go onto actually Google rather than just using the search bar on the top.
Yes.
When you're like in your favorites section before you actually search anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So when you're there, like, I would always end up using Google because I hated DuckDuckGo. The search results that would come up was not what I was looking for. If you would ever search up like a business, it'll give you like their website. Like, you know how Google, if you search up a business, it'll give you their opening, their closing hours. It'll give you a link to their website, their phone number.
It's a convenience.
Their directions. Like, honestly, like I removed DuckDuckGo from my default search browser and I went back to Google because honestly, like, I do care about my privacy, but I prefer the convenience of Google on how much of a better algorithm it is rather than DuckDuckGo. So honestly, I would recommend just staying with Google. Well, I would recommend. The better thing is to use something that's more secure, something that's more private, like DuckDuckGo. But I find the trade-off too high because I don't like the search engine that DuckDuckGo uses, like the algorithm it uses to bring up results. And I guess I'm just used to Google. I've been using it all my life. So, I mean, it's more convenient. It gives you better search results. And yeah, I just find Google's better, even though it's less secure. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I do. So Google has been building Google search for years and years. Actually, it was their first product or their first service, if we could say, because it's not a product, actually it's a service.
Yeah.
And so they're making it free, providing a free tool. But you gotta understand something. Google doesn't work for free. They don't get grant money from the government or the military for producing Google search. And so, And so basically, if you think about it this way, they gotta monetize in a certain way. So what's the first thing they could do? They could post ads. So when you search something, they'll give you ads. They'll show you ads. And most of the time they're unintrusive and they're not really that annoying. But when you have when it starts to become like the first half of the page, the first page ads, like you can see there's like a little green like rounded rectangle where it says ad or ad provided by Google Ads, whatever. Yeah. It started getting annoying. And this is when people started installing ad blocks. And so they're when that started happening, Google started losing revenue. People people started to get aware that you could block ads, and it's like every time that people find out there's an ad block and a new ad block service, they would sign up. It's free, and it's so easy to do. Seriously, like building an ad block is not very easy. It's not very hard. I mean, sorry. And how can I say this? If I want to formulate this properly, I have to go. Let me change the route where I was presenting this, because I was going into monetization. I want to cover this later. Google has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people working only on the Google search. They have here. Let me. How many people work on Google search? So let's find out how many people. Okay, so while I'm looking for this, let me just tell you right there. Google processes 40,000 queries per second. So you know what that means? In a day, that's 1.2 trillion questions to Google or searches. So they have to have an infrastructure that is ridiculously big to sustain that search. What they could also do is minimize the amount of search someone has to do to get a result. And the only way of doing that, because if you could have 100 million servers around the world, and like you keep every time the more people are searching on Google, you put more servers to sustain the load. But what you could also do is refine the process. So instead of building 100 million servers around the world, I'm just giving a fictitious number, by the way. It's not accurate at all. I don't know how many servers Google has, but they have a lot. So instead of having all these servers, which are energy guzzling devices and very expensive and expensive to maintain, and you need infrastructure and people to maintain them, they could employ 10 to 20,000 people. And this is not a fictitious amount. It's between 10 to 50 to 20,000 people working on only Google search. And all of these people are engineers. So all of these people will refine Google search for it to reduce the amount of times people search.
Yeah.
Because the less people have to search, the less time you have to search for one topic, the more money they save and the more they make money off of you. Now, the added benefit of them reducing the search is they get to do that, they have to gather information on you. And so exactly. Google is gathering information on you. They know where you live. They know a lot of relevant information about you, which helps them to refine the search. So let's say you're downtown. Let's say I'm in Boulevard Sainte-Catherine in downtown Montreal, and it's noon, and I write on Google search opening hours for what's it called, Guitar Club something. I forget. There's this restaurant called Guitar Club. Google search knows that I'm not looking for an actual guitar club, that I'm looking for a restaurant called Guitar Club.
Yes.
And it's not a real restaurant. I'm just faking up. I make it up. I can't think. I don't remember the name of the restaurant I was thinking about. There is actually a lot of restaurants that have confusing names that have nothing to do with restaurants, and so they know.
It's true.
They do that processing. And actually, the thing I'm telling you right now, it's not even that impressive. That's basic. They'll do way more creepy things. So let's say you're driving to you're using Google Maps on your phone and driving to a certain location. And after 3 hours, you get off of the highway and you go on the service road. Google knows that you haven't arrived at your destination, but they also know that after 3 hours, you start getting tired and you want to fill up gas and you want to go pee and you want to go eat. So they'll start posting ads on Waze, because Google also owns Waze, about certain things that you might want to do, buy Coca-Cola. It's not probably Coca-Cola doesn't use Google ads, but let's say for the sake of talking for the discussion, Buy Coca-Cola. And so you're leaving the highway and going to the service road and readying yourself to go on the nearest exit for the en route. And you see on your thing, oh, Coca-Cola. And then you become, actually Coca-Cola would be nice right now. You start thinking in your back of your mind, you haven't like really processed like, oh, this is Google, evil corporations selling me Coca-Cola because you don't think of it that way.
No, you're just thinking
like, you know what,
thirsty,
Coca-Cola would be nice.
I'm tired and I wanna have a drink. Let me go get.
Or maybe not Coca-Cola necessarily. Maybe you don't like Coca-Cola.
Or just anything.
Maybe not Coca.
Anything.
Like maybe you don't like Coca-Cola, but the fact that you saw an ad for Coca-Cola, it made your brain think about food. And once you start thinking about food, like your brain is like, oh, you know what, a cheeseburger would be nice.
I'm tired. We've been driving for a while, or whatever, and now you look for the nearest rest station. And
so there you go. And so that right there, like. I don't mind this behavior because they have to make money somehow. Like they're not a charity organization. Google, it's
obviously.
But where the problem begins is when they start saving that information, and then selling it to firms. See, like they're like, oh, okay. So we know that on this stretch of highway, when people pass here, let's say from this location, let's say they're going from point A to point B. When they get to a third of the way, they'll be hungry, and so we'll sell you an ad at this location, guaranteeing you that there'll be this amount of people at this time going there, and we could give you the full list of people that actually do this because we need to prove to you that it actually works. When you're doing a big deal, with Google for ads. Companies do their due diligence. They want to see the data. They don't cheap out. They're not buying hope. They're not buying hopes and dreams. They want an assured comeback. Not comeback. They want to ensure that they're gonna get back what they paid for.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the extent of it.
Also, is that like Google knows everything because you're using your phone and you're using Google Maps and you're using location services. Google knows everything. They know from when you left your house, from which city you left from, to which city you're going to, and how long it is you've been driving, and which area you passed when you started thinking about this, or when you wanted to go stop, and how many stops you took throughout your trip, and how fast you were going, and how long the trip took, and how long you were at the rest station, and they know everything.
Yeah.
They know everything.
They do know.
And then, like, let's say you use like Android Pay. They know how much you spent at that rest stop that
and
you
what
stopped
you bought
for half an hour.
And what you bought.
What you buy, where you bought it, which store. Like, they know everything. And the thing is that they'll sell that to, let's say like an en route. Let's say you're going to Ontario, and on our highway, on the 401 highway in Canada, the Trans-Canadian Highway, there are in Ontario there are these things. They're called en routes. I'm sure most of you guys know what they are. But like, let's say a Tim Hortons comes, usually they're at the en route. So let's say a McDonald's comes and they're like, I want to open up a store on an en route. And then they'll look at, let's say, which en route gets the most stops or whatever, just saying as an example. And usually which en route sees the most traffic, like which en route has the most cars passing by it and stuff like that. And then they'll sell all that information to McDonald's, and McDonald's would buy all of this information, see which en route is the most ideal location, and then, let's say, open up a store on this en route. So it's really bad, and it's like you said, they give like your personal information, they give your name, they give everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly it's very unsettling to think about it.
But look, this is not the worst part of it. Like, honestly, to this point, I'm kind of semi okay with it. Like, I don't like that my information is being passed down to other people, but I'm pretty careful with my data. I personally don't advertise everything I have on Google, and like, I don't give them all my information. I use Apple products for that reason, partly.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though Apple Maps is not as high performing as Google Maps, I still use it because I kind of like the privacy aspect of it.
Same.
The worst part is when a corporation pays Google money to promote a product. When, let's say, you're searching stuff on Google, and I'm looking for. Let's start with an innocent example, and then we'll bump it up. Let's say I'm looking for a microphone to buy, and I'm looking for the Sennheiser brand of microphone. But there is the competing brand of microphone, Shure, Shure, the German brand.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, both of them are German. And so Shure is like, you know what, Google, I'll give you $10 million if every time someone searches for Sennheiser, you put on top my website, my Amazon page in the search, and I want you also to put ads for me all over. And
Yeah.
and yeah, of course, like they're getting paid and they know that you're looking for a microphone and but I searched for Sennheiser specifically, and you're giving me
Exactly.
other things. If I wanted, if I like if they put you alternatives. Maybe someone doesn't have brand awareness and they don't know about Rode or Shure. Rode is also a good other brand for microphones.
Yeah, they're very good.
Maybe they don't have brand awareness for the other brands. They don't have brand awareness for Yeti Blue and Rode and Shure and all the other brands. It's not an exhaustive list. And so maybe Google could put suggestions. There's these other brands you could look at. They're also good. Generally people that buy Sennheiser microphones from that quality will also buy these. They're out there. They compete pretty equally. I'm fine with that. But when they overwhelm your page
With ads
with contrary
from another
results,
company.
ads from another company, and like not just like one result, like literally almost all the page to the point where you can't find anything related to the other brand. That becomes problematic.
Yeah.
And
Well,
at this point, it's still not very offensive, Like they're making money, But the problem is when you start looking for when you start researching controversial things like gun control, and Google has an invested
Yes.
interest
Yes.
where they like. I understand that gun shootings are evil and they're disgusting, and people that do these evil practices, they're not something is not right with them. They need help. They legit need help.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
And when Google is trying to control the information because someone has an invested interest, let's say a government institution or a funded private entity, is trying to swerve public opinion about this topic, even though it's contrary to my beliefs, I still want to see all the sides of all perspective. I don't want to see a biased opinion on Google search. If I'm looking for gun control, I want to see searches on gun control. I want to see the right leaning position, the left leaning position, the extremist left, the extremist right position, and the center. I want to see them all. I don't want to see just CNN's perspective and MSNBC's perspective on it, and then some blog that some guy working for BuzzFeed writing about gun control and how it's going to destroy the USA or whatever. I want to see all the perspective. When I'm looking for, let's say, I forget which platform, but in one platform, if you just, it's YouTube. If you make a gun video,
it'll get
demonetized. But let me tell you here, 71% of the United States population owns at least one gun. And generally speaking, I think it was 80 something, have more than 5 guns. So 80% of 71% of the American population has more than 5 guns.
That's insane.
That's
a lot
from
of guns.
150 million to 200 million people in the States have more than 5 guns. Per household, of course.
Wow.
And so when you're controlling all the information of these people want to know how to maintain their guns and use them safely and everything. And when you're controlling public opinion by changing Google searches, you're not doing a service, you're doing a disservice.
Yeah.
You are hurting people because in the idealist of world, people would never do shootings. People would not use guns in an evil way. They would just use it for either sport or hunting for livelihood.
Yeah.
And in the ideal of situations, people wouldn't have to use it for self-defense, but sometimes people have to, or so the American law allows people to do in certain conditions and certain states too. And so, if you control public opinion by filtering search on these topics, you are not only making the country unsafer, you're also creating ignorance in people because you want to control opinion. You don't want people to talk about guns because it's not good for sponsors or for people posting ads. I prefer to have a safer country and less ads on a platform. Honestly,
Yeah, for sure.
if Google tells me, okay, you know what, we're gonna stop censoring people for their either political views or whatever it is, and allow people to talk about whatever topic they want as long as it's non-criminal, as long as it's like a moral topic, and for that to happen, you have to remove your ad block. I would do it.
Yeah.
I would do it.
Yeah. Me too.
And that is why I use DuckDuckGo to circle back, because I know we derived a lot. We went out of the main thought line, but I'm gonna tie it back together. This is why I use DuckDuckGo. When I'm looking and searching for controversial subjects that I don't want a biased and filtered opinion by some engineer that's not happy with the current, let's say, administration in the States, I want to see what the actual research on it online, what the people are saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear a filtered version. And so I give 2 examples where it might be not as offensive, where they could just filter what you're looking for and present you a subject, but then they could control what you think in a certain way of speaking. I'm not saying that they're brainwashing us, but by removing one part of the information and only presenting the other, they are basically lying to you.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and so I don't feel comfortable being more political in that. That is maybe the extent of my thoughts about privacy on Google, and that is why I still advocate for DuckDuckGo. It's still a good search engine, not the best. So maybe use both, like I do. I have one browser.
Yeah.
I have Safari on my iPad and on my laptop using Google Maps, Google and all the Google Maps and Google everything, and I have another one using DuckDuckGo for privacy. Not for privacy also, but for unfiltered and uncensored results.
Yeah, stuff that's not like Google is posting their imposing their leftist non-gun whatever style of view. You get the whole spectrum.
Yeah. You want to do one last topic? We're 1 hour in. Maybe we could do one last topic and yeah.
Sure. So the WWDC wish list.
Or as I like to call it, WWDC.
Yeah.
Dub. You know what? I can't wait to watch what kind of montage video they're going to present before the event. Every year, Apple release. Oh yeah, by the way, up to speed. WWDC is an event every June, let's say. Consistently every June.
Yeah, it's usually every June.
Every June, where basically all of the people producing application software and journalists are invited or have the ability or the opportunity to be invited to the Apple event in their theater. And in that event, it's basically a solid week where they get to refine their knowledge. It's basically a conference. They get to refine their knowledge and talk with Apple engineers. All of them are present there. All of Apple engineers are off of programming work and are at the disposal of programmers, developers, coders to create and refine their applications. It's basically a way to give back to the community, help them to refine their applications, make them better. And also there's like a lot of presentations presenting new software. The first event after the State of the Union, the first event, is the keynote, the famous keynote. And that's the part where you mostly see in like news sites, where there's like Tim Cook and some other vice president or president, whatever, Phil Schiller and the Air Force One, Frank Crederighi.
Because usually WWDC is a whole week.
Yeah. The first part is the most interesting one because this is where they announce the next release of iOS, the one we use on the OS for the phone. They also announce watchOS and all the other OSs actually. they'll announce it for the first time, and they're going to tell developers and us what to expect next September when they officially release it to the public, because they release a public beta till then, a beta being a test version, and a lot of people look forward for the WWDC because Apple actually puts a lot of work on their betas and on their versions.
They do.
As opposed to Google, which basically are very incremental updates. And before every event,
iOS 13.
iOS 13, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am so glad you are here. My name is Tim Cook, and I sound fake because I'm from Alabama. All right, sorry. Yeah, no, he's great. He's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, before
No hate to Tim Cook.
no hate. Tim Cook, sponsor us. Before every event, they'll
Come on the show.
yeah, we'll invite you. We'll talk to you. We don't bite. We don't bite. We're nice people. We like privacy.
Yeah,
We're like you.
Yeah.
And before
Like
every event, they'll make this montage, this video, and you could watch them on YouTube. They're pretty good. So they'll make this montage. And last year it was a montage about developers to honor them because I think they were celebrating maybe the $100th billion made through the App Store or something like that. Ridiculous. Wow. It's like a milestone. And so they were celebrating developers making these applications through a video, and it was kind of sarcastic and quirky, where it's basically describing the developers themselves as animal, and then there's this guy from like those documentary voices, like let me do an imitation. This guy in a British accent, he goes like this. And you could see far in the distance 2 developers with their pale skin readying themselves to type on their keyboard. And so it's kind of a documentary type of sarcastic video. It's like 5 minutes long, and it summarizes the life of a developer in a very simplistic and like what is that word for when you make a generalization a characteristic generalized for a certain group of people? You know, when I do like like Italian racist memes or whatever.
Yeah,
what are those
I'm
called?
not sure.
Those are called? There's a term for that in proper English. Like, oh man, I forget. It's like. Anyways, we'll come back. But yeah, so it was kind of a portrayal, a comical portrayal, and it's the best part. Literally, like you could watch them, and it's so well made and it's so funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they made one for the clicker for the slideshow. And it was like it was a kind of James Bond, like it was really well done. Anyways, and so this is WWDC. WWDC starts with this funny video. Then Tim Cook saying "Good morning, everybody," and then they start presenting iOS, watchOS, tvOS, macOS, and sometimes, if we're lucky, they'll announce hardware. We're not going to talk about the hardware. We're only going to talk about the software. And so. We have a few rumors. Mark Gurman and a lot of people. That Japanese guy? I forget his name. Minchi Kuo, and there's another one. There's another Japanese guy too. They basically work for investors, giving them rumors about certain topics that Apple is going to maybe invest in or doing, so they could either buy stocks or share stocks. And they said that there's a few things coming, and the ones I'm looking mostly forward is, first of all, dark mode. Now this is a drum that people have been beating on for like 7 years now. Like, dark mode is coming. Dark mode is coming in iOS 7. Dark mode is coming in iOS 8. No. All along, man. And so it's been actually finally rumored to happen. And the reason why I know that is because they brought it to the Mac. And Apple does something very funny. When they bring a technology that is, or something new to one platform that will completely change the overall look of it, they only release it to one of their devices, namely the Mac. And they did this before with the Force Touch trackpad on the Mac. In 2015, Apple released a trackpad, the clicky part on the trackpad of for the cursor on the laptop, which does not move. It's a slab of glass that is glued to the chassis of the computer. And the way it simulates a click, like if I have my mic in front of me right now, if I click, it feels like something depressed and something clicked, but actually nothing moved. And how they do that is they have this little motor inside the
haptic engine.
It's called the haptic engine, exactly. It's a motor that is super sophisticated and it's optimized for vibration. The vibration motor in the most phones are just like regular motor that turn with a unbalanced crankshaft which simulates a vibration.
Yeah.
But this one does not simulate a vibration. It simulates a click. I fooled my dad. My dad didn't believe me. I told him, Dad, the trackpad doesn't move. I'm telling you. He clicked it. He's like, he didn't believe me. My dad like, no, it does not. It's not true. It's moving. I feel it. We got a micrometer which basically measures depression, the thickness, and he pressed on the trackpad while clicking and checked how much it was depressing, and it didn't even depress 1 micromillimeter. So, so I'm telling you, it for everyone listening here, it does not move. It has a pressure-sensitive layer which detects pressure, and so you could click, and if you click even harder, it will click again, but with like a more firm click, and it will enable other functions. Like if you force click, you click really hard on a word, it will bring up a bubble telling you what this word means.
Like 3D touch.
Yeah, 3D touch. And it's Force Touch on the Mac, 3D touch on the phone. And so before bringing that feature to the phone, they only did it on the Mac. The next year, they brought it to the phones. And that's what we have right now. And that's what's happening right now. So they brought dark mode to the Mac, and they're going to bring it to the phone later.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good thing, you know. I don't expect it to be flawless. It's gonna be if we could say twitchy at the beginning. Not a lot of apps will support it.
Yeah,
so like
for sure.
All your user interface is dark, and all of the rest of the user interface is sometimes you'll have applications that don't support dark mode, so there's going to be like you're in a dark application and then you go in another application, everything's going to be white.
Yeah.
And
but it'll get there.
It'll get there, hopefully.
Honestly, I'm happy that they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's one feature I'm looking forward for. I'm mostly on the iPhone. I'm pretty satisfied with the overall, let's say, graphical interface. Maybe they could surprise me with special features, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
What they could do to improve, though, is the iPad. The iPad is a very promising platform, where both Daniel and I are using it as our main primary device for work at school and work in general. And so we've been using it for like everything, note-taking with the Apple Pencil, writing essays,
that's
doing
amazing.
work everywhere and everything. And it's working pretty flawlessly so far. And I'm pretty impressed with the performance. It's basically replacing the laptop for me. I have a MacBook Pro 2015 with a trackpad, the Force Touch trackpad. And I also have an iPad. I could leave my iPad, my Mac, and take the iPad, which is way lighter. Like by magnitude of like lighter, 5 times lighter. Yeah. And it improves the overall performance of my studying because I don't have to always look for an outlet because the battery on the iPad lasts for technically 12 hours.
But the iPad
Apple
has
only
very
advertises
good battery life.
for 10. Yeah. And I'm pretty happy with the battery performance. How about you?
I'm very happy with it. Actually, I even use it sometimes to charge my phone, and it still has great battery life, all day battery life, even when I charge my phone.
Yeah.
No, honestly, the iPad is a very, very good product.
And so if they could basically refine the process, give us more functionality, keep on improving. They did a great job when they released the first iPad Pro. Started giving us pro features. They gave us the dock in the bottom where you could put all the applications and switch between applications very quickly. It's
USB-C.
It's really good. USB-C, but the main focus here is software.
True.
And we could say that the WWDC wish list for iOS is pretty much what we mentioned. But I also have another request, and that's the Mac. The Mac gets software updates as the same frequency as all the other platforms, once a year, for a big software update, and then they release incremental updates and little bugs and sometimes features. I don't mind how they do it, but I believe that they should probably come out with a big feature soon. Maybe iOS 12 update for the Mac.
But iOS 12 wasn't that much of a big update. It was more of like...
I mean performance-wise.
Oh, okay, yeah. How boost the performance of the phone.
Yeah, because here's the problem that Apple is suffering right now. And that is why people like to criticize Apple. The new Apple computer. It's also a topic for another time, but we'll touch on it today. Apple was planning on Intel to release processors that use less energy or are more efficient.
Yes.
The way they achieve that is by making them smaller. When you shrink something, generally speaking, it takes less energy to run.
Yeah.
And so Apple was hoping that Intel would get their game together and release it in the time that they expected to, which they didn't. And so now we're stuck with all these devices, these new devices that are running with really hot Intel CPUs and with not very impressive performance upgrades. So also the other benefit by shrinking something is you could squeeze more performance out.
Yes.
Because there's more efficiency. And in an overall, if you take this as a rule in life, when things are cooler, not cold, cooler, they generally perform better.
Yeah.
If something is too hot, it will degrade in performance. Why? Because there's a loss of efficiency. Materials lose conductivity efficiency with heat, and also they break. Heat is like the main source of devices breaking, especially on the chip level, and so.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one thing I like to tackle. If they tackle the aspect of increasing performance throughout the software and refining it, that I'll be so happy. There's a lot of legacy features on the Mac where they keep stuff on it that it's not really useful anymore. Namely, iTunes. iTunes is not only a music application and a video application. It's also a way to back up your phone on it. It's also used to purchase applications. It's also used to create your own music library. You could listen to Apple Music on iTunes. You could also listen to podcasts, and so it's a bloated application. And
yeah, it does a lot.
It does a lot of things, but it's not good at any.
No, it's like Jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. That was a quote. We should change the podcast name to Jack of all trades, master at none. But that's going to be like so long to say, and I don't think we could find an acronym for it. No, but again,
welcome to the Jack of all trades, master of none podcast.
I'm your host.
Today we will be talking about products that are Jack of all trades and master of none.
There you go.
Namely, the LG ThinQ.
Amen. Amen. Preach, preacher. Yeah. No,
We're stealing our titles from Marquez Broadley. Shout out to him. Come join the show.
Yeah, Marquez, we want you on the show. Give us a shout out. We could use subscribers. Yeah. No, but so let's say if they spin off Apple Music and every music aspect from the Mac iTunes app and make it into its own application. So there is now the iTunes app, and then separate of the iTunes app, they strip off every functionality. Yeah, well, I can't say that word. Wow. Functionality. Functionality. There you go.
Functionality.
Here, let me take a sip of coffee. It's good. And so functionality of all the music in iTunes is stripped away and put in its dedicated app. It would be way better. Same thing for podcast.
On the iPhone.
Same thing for podcast. Yeah, exactly. Same thing for
iPhone. The iPhone has all its dedicated. It has a dedicated music app. It has a dedicated podcast app. It has dedicated like iTunes Store app. Everything. TV has a dedicated TV app. Everything's split up. Whereas on the Mac, you have all that stuff: music, podcast, the TV app. Everything is on iTunes, and not to mention, it's also the way that you back up your iPhone on your Mac. So it does a lot. It is very bloated. It's a very bloated app for sure. But I mean, for them to split it up, I've heard a few rumors. Like I've watched Taylosiv's podcast. No, not his podcast. His videos where he talked about like the splitting up of the iTunes on the Mac. I don't have a Mac, so I can't really say like iTunes doesn't work well or anything. But I have heard perspectives of people who have used Macs, and I've heard people who say that iTunes is a pro Mac is a pro Mac feature, where the reason why you're buying a Mac is because you want to have pro functions, and they say like they're like a little functions like where you can have like all your list, and I'm not sure exactly how it works because I don't have a Mac, and I've never used iTunes on the Mac, but I'm just saying like what I've heard. But then after I've heard other people saying how they would prefer, like Taylosiv saying how he would prefer it being split up.
Yeah.
Because
ATP they're against it.
Mac, each app. Yeah, and what they said, what he said was that he because they're using Marzipan to make the apps, that it's just gonna be like an iPhone app made for the Mac.
Yeah, which is not that so great. If we look at Apple News on the Mac, which is basically the iPad app ported on the Mac, it's not very good. Yeah. It's not very good. But what I'm looking forward, and actually we're entering the next subject, which I want to talk about, Marzipan. So let's do up to speed. Marzipan is a new, let's say, a new initiative by Apple to create a standard for programmers to be able to make one application for iPhone, Mac, and iPad all at once. You don't have to change anything. So you could create the application for the iPhone, and then you could just like click a button on the software that creates the applications, and it will convert it for iPad and for Mac, and you don't have to put any work. The benefit of this is because the Mac store is very stale. There's not a lot of new applications on the Mac store.
Okay.
And if there are, they're all expensive. Why? Because it's so hard to. It's a smaller market than iPhone. Compared to how many iPhones there are, there's a lot less Macs.
A lot less, yeah, for sure.
A lot less Macs and iPads. And so if they could tap into the developer genius they have on iPhone and iPad and take those applications and bring them to the Mac without compromising too much on their performance, it will make people way more happy with their Mac. And you know what? I like this because it doesn't cost us anything. They are bringing fundamental improvement to the hardware and software and the overall enjoyment of Mac without costing us a penny.
Yeah, that's true.
So
just through software,
software. So basically, you get a new device. Well, fundamentally, it's not a new device, still the same one, but with an updated software, which makes it feel new. And I like this a lot. For one reason too, is because a lot of times I want the same application I have on my phone on my Mac, and the company doesn't make two applications. They only make for the iPhone and for the watch, let's say. But I want the same application on the phone to be on the computer. For example, TimePage.
Yeah.
TimePage. Daniel and I, we use this calendar application. I don't know if you subscribe to it.
Yes.
It's called TimePage.
No, I didn't subscribe to it, but yeah, it does. It works well.
For any of our like journaling fans, people that like to write in journals, there's this really popular brand of journal paper and like note paper, field note paper. It's called Moleskine, and Moleskine made this electronic version of a calendar. and it's really intuitive and really nice to use. I bought the license for 1 year, and I'm gonna renew it next year because it's so intuitive. It never fails me. It's an application which encourages you to write stuff in because it's so easy.
Yeah,
right.
And it's not even that expensive. For a year, it's only what, $15?
Not
even
even.
Something
I
like
got
that.
the early bird price, so it's $11, and then after you pay that $11, we add Canadian tax, so it comes down to like $13-14, which is not that bad because I found myself way more organized, and I'm willing to pay $15, which is the price of like 4 or 5 coffees, Tim Hortons coffees, just to be way more organized. I'm willing to pay that price.
Yeah, it's exactly. When you look at it that way, if your life is more organized and you find yourself getting more done, it's worth the $15.
Yeah, and so let's say I'm working on my Mac and I wanna put stuff in my calendar, or I want to check my calendar. I have to pull my phone out, and we touched on this last week. But like when you're focusing on a task, you don't want to open.
You don't want to divide your focus.
Exactly. You don't want to change context and divide your focus, because you'll open your phone and then you'll see 75 notifications and like Facebook notifications and text message notifications. They're not super important, but because you saw them, now you have to answer them.
Now you're looking and now then after you answer those, and then you start looking at what people are posting, and then you start
procrastinating.
And then after, it's an endless chain of wasted time on social media.
Exactly, and then before you know it, you already wasted 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that is why I think it's a really good idea. Like honestly, ATP they're way too critical about it. I think they're gonna change their mind. ATP is a podcast. I highly recommend it. If you like our format here, you should go listen to them. They have really good They have really good people talking. Namely, especially John. John, he's a character.
Yeah.
He's a character.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy.
He has a good opinion too.
Yeah,
good topic.
He's very critical. He's very critical, and sometimes I think he's unfair or not realistic.
A bit.
Yeah, and so that's what when they were criticizing the splitting of the iTunes application into their own individual components, I think they missed the point, where they were afraid that they're going to lose all their smart features and everything. Like, because these 3 guys are old, like they're like 40 years old and above. And
especially John, he's even older.
He's even older.
He's been programming since like the 80s, 90s.
This guy used to program in like BASIC. So basically, he used to program in ones and zeros. That's how old he is. No programmer programs in ones and zeros anymore.
No. They all use languages.
Yeah, and so these guys discussed that, I don't like it because I'll have to find another way to put songs on my phone and stuff like that. But they don't realize that people have passed away or moved on from using buying albums and syncing them to their phones. People now, they just subscribe to Apple Music. They pay
but even at that,
they pay the $5 a month if you're a student.
You can buy albums on the iTunes store.
Yeah, but
on your iPhone.
That's the thing. They don't buy them from the iTunes store. They buy them from the website of the music creators. Then they import them to the iTunes app, and then they sync them to their devices. After doing that, they use like some kind of smart. Yeah, no, it's way too complicated. The thing is, they think that they're the majority of the users. Most people don't even know that you could do this.
No.
Most people don't. Go ahead.
If people are buying albums, then I didn't even know you could buy albums off of the website. Usually they either use, like, first of all, people use subscription services, and if the album is not on the subscription service, you can usually find it on like iTunes
or YouTube,
like Google Play, or like
YouTube.
One of the YouTube. You can just get like YouTube Premium or whatever and just download the song from there. So there's, well, at least from my perspective, there's nobody that's really using iTunes to download music on their phones.
Yeah, and so those 3 guys in the ATP podcast have really weird use cases. Like, I was listening to how they use iTunes. I'm like, man, you guys use iTunes like already right there. That's like a really impressive thing, because it is such a terrible application. It works, but it's not intuitive. If I give the iTunes app to to like someone that doesn't really know how to use Apple programs, he will look at this and be like, "What is this garbage?" Like there's no way to delineate what is on the what is on your device, how to play it, how to export, how to import it. Everything is done in a weird way, and if they could simplify this, it would be good. Now, people have been judging Marzipan,
Yeah, for sure.
Marzipan, the project which allows you to have applications on all three devices, Mac, iPad, and iPhone, all at once by one click of the button, because of the applications they made last year. Apple created that project. They didn't give it to developers yet. People cannot make applications using the Marzipan protocol. Only Apple.
Okay, only Apple. Correct.
Only Apple. They made a few apps. First one they made was the sound recording. They made a dedicated sound recording application that's pretty good, really good, on Mac. And it's basically...
Did they use
Go ahead.
Marzipan to make Apple Music for the iPad?
No, it's its own version, but it's a blown up version of the iPhone app, basically. It doesn't have any like distinguishing features.
Basically what it is.
They also made the stocks app, like for the stock market. We had that before, but it wasn't that nice, so they made a new one. They also made the Apple News app. By the way, remind me if I forget one. They made the Apple News app, and Apple News app is terrible. People have like really a laggy and weird experience with it. I'm not gonna spend much time on saying how terrible it is, because we'll find out next month when the Apple event arises. I believe that the Apple News app was a first version. It was a prototype showing people what is possible to do. And you gotta remember.
It just came out too.
Yeah, you gotta remember. It's hard to make a single code base that works on a Mac, on an iPad, and an iPhone, with generally speaking no issues.
Well, yeah, because they're completely different platforms.
Yeah.
Like you're going from you go from a 4.7 inch to like a 6.5 inch screen in the iPhone, and then after you go to like a 10.5 to 13 inch screen on the iPad, and then you go from like 13 to 27.5 inch on the Mac, and they use different operating systems.
And different processors and different operating systems, like you said. So when you use Intel processors, one uses a A10, A12X processor, and one uses a A processor. So it's like
and then the other one uses Intel. Like it's
Broadwell
different processors
and different generations of Intel, and everyone has their own quirks and problems, and they use different GPUs, different RAM, everything. Everything is different. So making one base of code for all of them is pretty impressive, I gotta say.
It is. Just the fact that it even works is impressive.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward.
They're Apple. They should be doing that. I mean, they have like thousands of people working on it. So and they have the resources. So they should be making apps that work.
Yeah. I'm looking forward for this, man. I'm looking forward to see what they're going to release.
Yeah.
iOS, I hope they're going to release new features, a redesigned home screen, like when you enter the phone.
For the iPad, they're saying it's going to be a big update for the iPad.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
And honestly, I don't have a lot of expectations for the iPhone except what I said. I just want whoever's going to present the keynote for the iPhone part to impress me. I expect Siri improvements because they poached the CEO of not the CEO, the team developer for Google. So they have one of the best guys for smart assistants. So I expect I expect Siri improvements. And from there,
Hey dingus.
Hey dingus. Okay, Siri. Okay, Siri.
Okay, Siri. Okay, we're officially changing the acronym.
No, I want Apple to give us the option to say, "Yo, Siri." Yo. Was good. Yeah, that would be cool. Yo, Siri.
Yeah,
What's the weather like outside?
You have to say it in like the Johnny Ive voice. We are going to be officially changing our Siri to "Okay, Siri" instead of "Hey dingus."
Yeah.
And it is such a good design. We find that people say okay more than hey.
And if you're from the hood, you could say yo. It will work flawlessly.
You could use any word you want before, as long as you say Siri at the end. You can use any word as okay or hey or yo. Anything that you want.
What happens if you say Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka Siri?
What if you say Sri Lanka, like in a regular conversation, and then Siri interprets this as Siri?
It'll activate and it'll start listening to you, and it'll send all of the information to Apple.
All right. I think we've exasperated whatever that word is. I can't pronounce today for some reason. I'm a bit congested, by the way, everyone. So if you feel like last week I was congested from allergies, today I'm congested as well. But I hope my voice is clear and not hard to understand. We've been going on.
For my part, it sounds good.
Yeah, we've been going on for 1 hour and 40 minutes so far. Do you have anything to say before? What do you think? We should stop now?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. I think it's a good time to end.
Yeah. So we thank you all. We would like to thank you for sticking to the end, and we thank you for your tremendous support, for everything for all the feedback you've left, and everything you've done. We have social media now, so you can find us on Facebook at Again and Again Podcast, and on Instagram at again.podcast, and on Twitter at Again Podcast. There's no dot in between. Again Podcast. If you have recommendations, criticism, just DM us in those platforms. And you could also email us at the2apodcast@gmail.com. The2apodcast@gmail.com. The two is the number. You could find those in the show notes below.
Also, you could find all of our links to our social media on our website.
Yes, and in the show notes.
theagainandagainpodcast.com.
Mm-hmm. And we'd like to thank you for your support. And if you want to support us even more, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a good review on Apple Podcast. We would appreciate that very much, as it helps to boost our podcast and to reach more people. We would also, if you also like, you could share our podcast with your friends and family, whether you post a link to our website or our podcast or our Apple Podcast link on your social media, or send it to a friend. Whatever works. And if you want to even support us even more and be a super supporter, you could become a Patreon member. We have a Patreon link in our website. For $1 a month, you could help us replenish our Tim Hortons coffee fund, and for that you'll get a few perks. And all the perks are very well explained in the Patreon application. So if you're interested or you're into that and you want to get more stuff from us, you could go see there, and you'll be supporting us and helping us to grow the podcast. We would like to thank you very much. We appreciate you all listening to the end. And from Michael, I say goodbye. And Daniel?
I say goodbye too.
All right.
Have a good day.
Arrivederci. How do you say it, man? You're Italian. Tell me. Arrivederci?
Arrivederci.
There you go. Hey.
Or you could just stick with ciao.
Oh, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.